Tingting and I were reborn, back to the day we graduated from college and took our wedding photos. While she was still doing her makeup, she suddenly took off her white wedding dress. I've thought it through. We're not right for each other, she said. I'm not marrying you. I didn't try to stop her, because I knew she regretted being with me in our past life. A heart that couldn't be warmed no matter how hard you tried would always be cold. After 3 years of love, we went our separate ways. Tingting chose to go abroad and disappeared. I stayed in Jiang City alone. 7 years later, Tingting returned home successful and accomplished with her soulmate. They publicly announced their engagement and seemed incredibly happy. But when she found out that I had been married for 4 years and that my wife was the daughter of a billionaire, her guts were twisted with regret. You once said that you would only ever love me, she exclaimed. How could you do this to me? On the weekend, I turned down all work and social events to take my daughter to the beach. My daughter was having a blast, splashing sand and seawater on me. As I looked at her adoringly, my old classmate, Huang Tao, called. What time is it? Why aren't you here yet? I'd forgotten about the class reunion. I apologized profusely. Oh, and I forgot to tell you, Tingting is back, Huang Tao added. She's with Gu Ming. Back in our freshman year, class president Gu Ming was my biggest rival. He was Tingting's childhood sweetheart. They grew up together and shared a deep bond, but I managed to win her over with my talent. Gu Ming jokingly warned me that I had better treasure her, otherwise he would step in. I asked the housekeeper to take my daughter home, then went to the hotel alone. Huang Tao told me that Tingting had been doing well abroad. With Gu Ming's help, she'd gotten into a Fortune 500 company, becoming a manager. Her monthly salary was said to be equal to 2 years' work for an average person. Furthermore, her designs had won several international awards. She was now a famous designer. She was likely back in the country to marry Gu Ming. Huang Tao reminded me that I had to be careful at the reunion and not lose my cool. I couldn't afford to offend Tingting or, even worse, Gu Ming. I said with a smile, "Thank you for the reminder. I'll be careful." When I arrived at the hotel and got out of the taxi, a BMW 3 Series suddenly pulled up behind me. Well, isn't this our talented in? How could you be so down on your luck that you don't even have a car and you're taking a taxi? Looking back, I saw that the person in the BMW was Lu Jianren, Gu Ming's best friend. During college, he had always disliked me because Tingting was my girlfriend. He had even threatened to have me taken care of. I had always suspected that he was the one who'd hired the thugs who attacked me off campus. Lu Jianren parked haphazardly and got out of the car, patting me on the shoulder. Talented in, long time no see. You haven't changed a bit. I smiled. Before I could say anything, a Kian pulled up, with my ex-girlfriend, Tingting, sitting in the passenger seat. She was wearing sunglasses, designer clothes, and impeccable makeup. Gu Ming, who was driving, narrowed his eyes and looked at me with a smug smile. Like a loyal dog, Lu Jianren hurried to the car and opened the door. Gu, you're here? Yeah. Gu Ming got out of the car and nodded at me indifferently. Long time no see. Long time no see. Tingting looked at me with distaste, at my dirty clothes, shorts, flip-flops, and the sand in my hair. After all these years, how are you getting worse? You couldn't have put on a decent outfit for the class reunion? I scratched my head and said that I didn't have time to change. Tingting snorted. If you don't pay attention to your appearance, you probably don't have a girlfriend either. I nodded. No, I don't. Lu Jianren sneered. You were the most talented guy in our department. How could you have fallen so low? You're embarrassing us alumni. Gu Ming, barely suppressing his grin, pretended to be righteous. Okay, Jianren, we are all classmates. Don't be so harsh. Talent won't feed you in this day and age. There must be a reason why he ended up like this. For my sake, don't rub salt on his wounds anymore. Lu Jianren chuckled and fell silent. Let's go. Everyone else is probably waiting. As we walked into the hotel, Tingting naturally took Gu Ming's arm. Her tall figure and long, slender legs, paired with stiletto heels, attracted a lot of male attention. Guming intentionally looked back at me. I pretended not to notice. When we got to the private room, my old classmates had already been waiting. When they saw Guming and Tingting, they stood up, smiling. "Class president, you're finally here. You're getting more and more handsome. Tingting is so beautiful and elegant. You two look so good together. Looks like we'll be having a wedding soon." Guming was pleased, while Tingting blushed bashfully. I followed behind like a ghost, and no one said hello to me. In the end, Huang Tao motioned for me to sit at the most inconspicuous corner. After the food was served, everyone started talking and laughing. I silently ate my food. As they talked, the conversation turned to Guming. Huang Tao asked, "Class president, your company is getting bigger and bigger. Is it true that you've been working with the Zhou group recently?" Guming smiled. "We're still discussing it, but we've mostly reached an agreement." Lu Jianren gave him a thumbs up. "The owner of the Zhou group is the richest man in the city. Once you've made this connection, you will be unstoppable. It's just a small business. It's nothing. Compared to Tingting's achievements, mine are insignificant. She's an internationally known designer and just won a big award," Guming said as he took Tingting's hand, looking at her with tenderness. I felt a bit dazed as I watched the scene before me. In my previous life, after Tingting and I got married, we had joined the same company. We lived a very ordinary life, going to work each day. Our income was okay in Jiang City. We had a house, car, and some savings. Tingting had been satisfied with this kind of life. But one day, after seeing a friend's social media post, she became depressed. The friend was named Li Yuan, and she wasn't as good-looking as Tingting. However, she was married to a rich businessman. She didn't have to work, and she could travel wherever she liked. She drove a Porsche and lived in a villa. Even her wedding ring had a diamond that was several times bigger than Tingting's. Tingting felt bitter, unwilling to live a quiet life. She started asking me to work harder, brainwashing me every day. What's the point of going to that dead-end job every day? With that salary, you're only barely feeding yourself. We only have a few $100,000 in savings. That looks like a lot, but it's not even enough to buy a nice car. I'm glad I didn't listen to your parents and have kids earlier. We wouldn't be able to afford a kindergarten. And you can't keep going like this. Why don't we quit our jobs and start our own business? Or why don't we go abroad? My friend guarantees that we can get a green card within 2 years. We need to work hard while we're still young, or we'll end up just living an ordinary life. I tried to persuade her that we had a good life. Starting a business or going abroad was risky. We could lose everything if we failed. No matter how I tried, she wouldn't listen. She wanted me to choose between those two, or she would divorce me. I was shocked to hear the word divorce. I had never imagined my wife, who had been so sweet and loving, would say such a thing. Just because she saw her friend living a luxurious life, she changed. All the love I had tried to hold on to had fallen apart so quickly. In the end, I couldn't persuade her, so I agreed to divorce her. As we were on our way to the Civil Affairs Bureau, we were hit by a speeding truck. Both my wife and I were killed. Then we were reborn. Talented and class president was asking you something. Don't pretend you didn't hear him. Lost in my memories, Lu Jianren nudged me impatiently. I snapped back. Guming looked at me with a smile. And we've all introduced ourselves. It's your turn. Tell us, what are you doing? I replied indifferently, I don't have a job right now. I'm basically unemployed. No way, unemployed? Lu Jianren said sarcastically, talented in. You graduated from Jiang University. How could you not even find a job? You're embarrassing yourself and the rest of us. The others burst into laughter. Tingting looked at me with pity and disdain. Her eyes filled with a hint of satisfaction. She was happy she'd made the right decision. If she had married me and stayed in Jiang City, she would have lived an ordinary life like in the last life, without any excitement. Where would her success be now? Huang Tao frowned. And how do you make a living without income? I said, I work odd jobs and freelancing to make ends meet. Lu Jianren looked me up and down with contempt. So, by freelancing, do you mean you're working as a construction worker? When I didn't reply, the others started gossiping. No wonder his clothes are so dirty and he's wearing slippers, and he has sand on his head. It seems that Lu was right. Oh, a graduate from a top university, and he ended up a construction worker. If I were him, I would have killed myself with a bowl of noodles rather than coming here and embarrassing myself. He came to this reunion just for Tingting. I still can't believe Tingting dated him back in college. Exactly. Class president is much better. He's rich and handsome, and an E doesn't even compare. Luckily, they didn't get married, or Li Tingting's life would be ruined. Faced with their sarcasm and mockery, I decided to use the restroom. As I was washing my hands, I heard the sound of high heels behind me. Turning around, I saw it was Li Tingting. She looked at me with a hint of disgust. "And E, I never thought you'd become such a failure, just because we didn't get married. It's been 7 years. Everyone has their own careers, even the worst of us. Huang Tao is a business manager. Why don't you have any ambition? I am so disappointed in you." Looking at that familiar yet unfamiliar face, I said calmly, "Everyone has the right to make their own choices. I chose this life because I like it. I don't have to worry about food, clothes, or getting into fights with anyone. I can finally enjoy some peace." Li Tingting smiled disdainfully. "And E, do you know why I didn't marry you?" "Yes, because our goals were different," I said calmly. "Money and fame are all that you want. It's not just me. Anyone with a brain would want that." Li Tingting said coldly, "Why live a life without a goal? That's just like being a useless piece of trash. You were talented, responsible, and romantic, a perfect choice for a husband. But your biggest flaw was you had no ambitions, and you were satisfied with the status quo. And E, life is too short. If you don't work hard, you will never know what you can achieve. I'm glad I chose correctly. I'm glad I didn't marry you and went abroad instead. Now I am successful and powerful. We live in 2 different worlds." I nodded. "Yes, you're different from before." Li Tingting scoffed. "And some people will always live in the past and are worse than before. And E, I think you'll be a failure for the rest of your life. But since we were once in love, I'll give you a chance. Gu Ming's company needs a design assistant. With your talent and education, it shouldn't be a problem for you. The salary may not be high, but with bonuses, you can earn 600 to 700 yuan. It's better than what you're doing now." I shook my head. "Thank you for your kindness, but I don't need it." Li Tingting frowned. "And E, you're already in this position and yet you're still stubborn? If I didn't care, Gu Ming wouldn't help you." Before I could reply, Gu Ming appeared. He wrapped his arm around Li Tingting's waist. "What's wrong, Tingting? You look upset." "Nothing. Just someone doesn't appreciate my kindness." "Oh." Gu Ming turned and looked at me. The corners of his mouth turned up. "Let me guess. It's an E who refused your kindness, right? An E, you shouldn't bite the hand that feeds you. Tingting is kind-hearted. If she didn't care about the past, she wouldn't lift a finger to help you. Look at you now. You're so down on your luck. Worse than the security guards at the hotel entrance. Tingting offered you a job at my company. It's a decent job in the city. Many fresh graduates would want a position like that. You really disappointed her." I said calmly, "Class president, I'm aware of my situation. It has been a while since I have worked. I'm just grateful for your kindness." Li Tingting snorted. "You're a useless person," and then turned and left. After she was gone, Gu Ming looked at me with a half-smile. "And E, remember what I said to you back in freshman year? If you didn't treat Tingting well, I would take her away from you. You really did give her up. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. Otherwise, I wouldn't have offered you this position at my company. But thanks aside, let me warn you again. Stay away from Tingting and don't try to get back together, or I will kill you." Gu Ming patted me hard on my shoulder as he said those words. His face was no longer gentle. It was filled with malice. I just smiled at him. When I got back to the room, Gu Ming kneeled down in front of everyone and proposed to Li Tingting, holding a bouquet of flowers. The others clapped and offered their blessings. Li Tingting was surprised, but she didn't refuse. She accepted the flowers bashfully. Huang Tao looked at me worriedly, then sighed in relief when he saw that I had a calm expression. However, when Gu Ming reached for the ring, his face suddenly changed. That's strange. My ring is gone. Lu Jianren asked, Gu, did you leave it in the car? Impossible. I clearly remember putting it in my pocket, and it was still there during dinner. Everyone exchanged surprised glances. Did it fall off? Or did it get stolen? Lu Jianren said. It must have been someone with sticky fingers who stole Gu's ring. It must have been expensive, right? Guming said calmly, It's not that expensive, just $1 million or so. Everyone gasped. Huang Tao suggested that they call the police, but Lu Jianren stopped him. Calling the police is too much trouble. Why don't we just search each other? We are all old classmates. We should sacrifice our time for the sake of our class president's happiness. Without waiting for anyone to reply, Lu Jianren went straight to me. And let's search you first, okay? I said okay. Lu Jianren went right in. A few seconds later, he pulled out a ring from my pocket. Gu Ming exclaimed, That's the diamond ring that I lost. The room erupted in noise. And you're so poor and also a thief? You stole from your classmates. That's terrible. Everyone, check if anything has gone missing. I knew he was not a good person. Call the police and arrest him. $1 million ring. He's gonna go to jail. Li Tingting looked at me coldly, her eyes filled with disappointment. I said I didn't steal anything, but no one believed me. As I became the target of everyone's attacks, the door opened. Under the hotel manager's guidance, a fair-skinned, beautiful woman walked in, holding a cute 2-year-old girl's hand. Gu Ming was surprised, and then smiled as he greeted her. Joe, why are you here? The woman glanced at him and asked, Who are you? I'm Gu, from Golden Fortune. I greeted you at the bid a few days ago. Huang Yao whispered, Who is she? Lu Jianren said, You don't know her? That's Zhou Shuyin, the new CEO of the Zhou Group. Her dad is a billionaire. She is the daughter of a billionaire. The others were shocked, but even more shocking news was to come. The little girl broke free from her mother's hand and ran to me. Daddy, hug me. In front of everyone, I picked up my daughter and gave her a little nose boop. Honey, why are you here? Zhou Shuyan smiled. Baby missed you. She was making a fuss, so I had to bring her. The old classmate's jaws nearly dropped to the floor. Guming stammered, Is Zhou your wife? I nodded, Yes, I've been married to her for 4 years. We didn't have your contact details then, so we didn't invite you. Sorry. Zhou Shuyan said, This meal will be our apology. Mr. Tang, put everything on my tab. Yes, CEO Zhou. Seeing the manager's respectful attitude, Huang Tao asked, CEO Zhou, does this hotel? It belongs to the Zhou family. After that, Zhou Shuyan changed the topic. Right. Before I came in, I heard someone saying they would call the police and send someone to jail. What happened? Everyone fell silent. Gu Ming and Lu Jianren stammered, unable to speak. Zhou Shuyin walked over and linked her arm with mine. Li Tingting's face turned pale, and she looked at me with complicated eyes. Zhou Shuyin asked, Honey, what happened? Gu Ming looked at me, his eyes full of pleading. I pretended not to see it and said, Nothing. We were just joking around. They said that I stole Gu Ming's ring. Zhou Shuyin frowned slightly. I had been calm, so she had already guessed everything. Husband, are they bullying you? No. Yes, you are. You wear all your feelings on your sleeve. It's not like I don't know you. We've been married for so many years. Zhou Shuyin turned to Gu Ming. Mr. Gu, what do you have to say about accusing my husband of stealing your ring? Gu Ming's forehead was sweating. He said quickly, CEO Zhou, misunderstanding? It's just a misunderstanding. We were just joking, like he said. Li Tingting spoke up. Joking? Everyone saw him with the ring. He's a thief. He should be arrested. That ring is worth $1 million. It's enough for a long prison sentence. Gu Ming panicked and wanted to cover her mouth. CEO Zhou, don't take her seriously. She drank too much and is just talking nonsense. Nonsense? I'm completely sober. And is a thief. The hotel manager said coldly, Are you joking? Mr. N has dozens of patents, and the cheapest is worth more than 10 million. He wouldn't even look twice at a $1 million ring. Why would he steal your ring? Everyone was shocked. Gu Ming and Li Tingting were speechless. They had thought I was just a gold digger. In reality, I loved inventing things in my previous life, but Li Tingting disliked that and told me I was not doing my job. She told me that I should be thinking about how to get promoted and earn money. After breaking up with her in this life, I was able to focus on my inventions and realized all the ideas that I had. Thanks to selling one of my patents, I was able to meet Zhou Shuyan. She admired my talent, and I liked her gentle kindness. We eventually got married. I was essential to the Zhou Group becoming the #1 company in Jiang City. It wasn't like I had married up. Zhou Shuyan looked coldly at Li Tingting. Mr. Tang, call the police. Yes, CEO Zhou. Gu Ming and Lu Jianren looked at each other, their faces pale. Li Tingting didn't notice, though. The police arrived and checked the surveillance cameras. It turned out that Lu Jianren had put the ring in my pocket, with Gu Ming's collaboration. After the truth was revealed, Li Tingting was shocked. The others didn't know what to say. When the police showed their handcuffs, Gu Ming kneeled before me, crying, I'm sorry. I wanted to get revenge and embarrass you in front of Tingting. Please forgive me. Zhou Shuyan said coldly, if there were no surveillance cameras, if I were not An Yi's wife, would you have let him go? You were the ones who wanted to call the police first. Gu Ming was silent, ashamed. The reunion ended in chaos. Gu Ming and Lu Jianren were taken to the police station. Zhou Shuyan was very angry and did not plan to let them go. She called the legal team and made sure they were punished. None of the classmates tried to speak up for them, because who would want to cross the mighty Zhou Group? Just as we were about to leave, Li Tingting stopped me. CEO Zhou, can I talk to An Yi alone? Zhou Shuyan looked at me. An Yi? She is? I didn't hide it. My ex-girlfriend. The one I told you about, who went abroad. Oh, that's her. No wonder. Zhou Shuyan nodded and said, okay, my baby and I will wait in the car. No need. I don't have anything to say to her. Hearing that, Li Tingting's face became very unpleasant. In front of Zhou Shuyan, she didn't dare to say anything and could only watch us leave. The next day, Huang Tao messaged me. He said Li Tingting had cried all night and no one could convince her to stop. She bought a plane ticket to leave, saying that she would never come back. He asked me if I wanted to see her one last time. I was out shopping with my wife and refused without hesitation. Gu Ming and Lu Jianren were sentenced to 1 year in prison, which they deserved. Also, the reputation of Gu Ming's company was ruined. Because of the Zhou Group, his business got worse, and eventually, he had to declare bankruptcy. Time flew by, and a few months had passed. One night, as I was done running, Li Tingting appeared suddenly, holding a thermos. An Yi, are you surprised to see me? I was surprised. Didn't you say that you wouldn't come back? Li Tingting looked at me resentfully. I did plan to do that, but there was someone I could never let go of. So, I came back, to get what I had lost. I, Li Tingting, am better than anyone. I frowned. Li Tingting, what do you want? An Yi, I know that you still love me. We missed each other before, but we can fix it. You should get a divorce. I don't mind that you're married, nor do I mind your daughter. We're perfect together. After we get married, I will help you with your inventions and be the best wife for you. Look, I made your favorite chicken soup. Only I can make this. You will understand after you try it. When we were married before, all Li Tingting did was make chicken soup. She didn't know how to make any other dish. This soup was taught by my mom, and although the taste was nothing special, I loved her so much that I would always drink every last drop and even compliment her. Now, I felt sick at the sight of it. I'm sorry, I don't like chicken soup. Li Tingting was stunned. How could that be? You like it? Just try a sip. You'll understand my true feelings. I really don't like it. Thank you for your kindness. As we were arguing, the thermos slipped and broke. Li Tingting became enraged when she saw the soup spilled on the floor. An Yi, you're a heartless man. You promised me that you'd love me forever, and now you've married another woman. How could you do this to me? I almost laughed. Li Tingting, have you forgotten that you were the one who broke up with me? You went abroad and blocked my contact information. Did you want me to wait for you like an idiot? Li Tingting bit her lip. Even if I blocked you, wouldn't you look for me? You should have gone abroad to find me. If you really loved me, you wouldn't have given up so easily. I asked coldly, Li Tingting, be honest with yourself. If I had gone abroad to find you, would you have chosen me or Gu Ming? Li Tingting's eyes flickered. I would choose you. Huh, even you don't believe that. I'm married, even if I wasn't, I would never get back together with you. In my previous life, I had seen her true colors. Li Tingting was a woman who loved money and enjoyed luxury. When we first got married, she had seemed kind, but as time went on, she started showing her true self. She didn't want to do any housework. After coming home from work, she would sit on the sofa, scrolling through her phone and watching dramas. She wouldn't care if the floor was dirty or the house was messy. I had to do all of the work, the laundry, cleaning, grocery shopping, and cooking. Li Tingting only made chicken soup, which was only once a month. I did everything, but that wasn't enough. When Li Tingting asked for a divorce, I tried to get her back and was almost begging her to stay. I was on my knees to her, but she thought that I was a useless person and that I was holding her back from living a life of luxury. All my friends are doing better than me. Their husbands have companies, or they've gone abroad. What about you? You are holding on to your job. Last month, Li Yuan's husband bought her another Porsche. It's worth millions. You would never be able to buy that even if you saved all your money. And I must have been blind to marry you. I was humiliated and didn't know what to do. I agreed to a divorce. When Li Tingting saw that I had agreed, she was elated and rushed me to the civil affairs office to end everything quickly. But we got hit by that speeding truck on the way there. Li Tingting, our fate is over. There's nothing else to say. Goodbye. Seeing me leave, Li Tingting panicked. She opened her arms and hugged me tightly from behind. I frowned. Li Tingting, men and women shouldn't touch. Please let go of me. I won't. I love you. Her voice was choked up. I didn't know if she was actually crying or just pretending. I pulled away. I never went running after that, afraid of being bothered by her. But Li Tingting didn't give up. She waited for me outside the villa, or at the Zhou group. Zhou Shuyan didn't let her be and had the guards throw her out. She even called the police. After getting arrested, Li Tingting finally stopped for a while. One afternoon, I was playing with my daughter when Huang Tao called. And it's bad. Li Tingting is trying to commit suicide. Come and talk to her. At first, I thought that Li Tingting was acting up again, and I didn't plan to bother. If she wants to jump, she can. It's none of my business. Zhou Shuyan asked me what happened. I shrugged, saying my old classmate said Li Tingting was trying to jump. Zhou Shuyan frowned and said, Why? Don't you go see what's up? I don't want someone dying. Before I could answer, my phone rang again. This time it was from the police who said Li Tingting wanted to see me and that she was too emotional. She could jump at any moment. The building where she was at was the old Golden Fortune headquarters, which was now owned by the Zhou Group. After a few seconds of hesitation, I agreed to go. Zhou Shuyan drove me there. When I arrived at the rooftop, I saw Li Tingting. Her hair was messed up. She was standing outside the fence and crying. The police and the firefighters were afraid to approach her because if she let go, that would be it. It was on the 19th floor. Even with an air mattress, her chance of survival was slim. When she saw me, her eyes lit up. And I knew you still loved me. You still love me, right? My expression was helpless and awkward. A negotiator whispered, Mr. In, please be patient and don't provoke her. Just distract her while we save her. I nodded and walked toward Li Tingting. I stopped about 3 meters from the fence. Li Tingting, don't be impulsive. Let me help you get over the fence. Li Tingting raised an eyebrow. What did you call me? I had no choice but to say, Tingting. And do you know why I'm here? I only have one goal, to win you back. I'm willing to die for you. Do you finally understand how much I love you? I was silent. The negotiator was frantically making hand gestures at me, but I couldn't see him. Whatever, just come down first, okay? No, unless you promise to divorce Zhou Shuyan. I refused immediately. That's impossible. Li Tingting's face became sad. And can't you even lie to me? Do you really want to watch me die? Fine. If I'm dead, no one will bother your happiness anymore. She suddenly let go of her right hand. Her body swayed, and she almost fell. I panicked and reached out to grab her hand. Behind me, my wife cried out, "Be careful, honey." After her body stabilized, she hugged me. And I knew you still cared. Don't be afraid. We'll jump together. After we are reborn, we can start over again. I won't leave you this time. I tried to hold on to the railing so that she wouldn't pull me out. Tingting shouted, "Let go," and if we jump, we will be reborn. Don't be an idiot, Tingting. We can't go back. I don't love you anymore. Even if we were reborn, I wouldn't marry you. Tingting's pupils contracted, and she froze. Taking that opportunity, the police and firefighters pulled us both to safety. And you're an A***** hole. So you were reborn too. How dare you not love me? I will never forgive you even if I were a ghost. Let go of me. I want to drag him with me. Tingting became hysterical and was sent to a mental hospital. A month later, Huang Tao messaged me. He said that Tingting had hung herself in the hospital. Before she died, she had written my name all over the walls. After hearing this, I could only sigh. Zhou Shuyan hugged me gently and asked, "What's with the sigh?" I said it was nothing, just a little emotional. Tingting was not. Only greedy. She was possessive. Luckily, everything was in the past. I would cherish my current happy life. That would be the best way to make my second life worthwhile.